Alright guys, just keep on training well. We're only playing the Shade in the quarterfinals. We should be fine. I'm just going to deal with this issue from Scotland because that was unacceptable. Hopefully, I've actually understood the phone number this time because Scottish people are really hard to understand sometimes. Please pick up Scotland Yard.
Hello, you've reached Scotland Yard.
Yes, Scotland Yard, finally. Okay, just who I want to talk to. I'm here to report a crime.
Let's hear it, as much as you can remember.
Yep, so I got locked in the changing rooms at Hampden Park.
Mate, this is a serious outfit we're on in.
It is a serious crime. We would have won that game if I hadn't been locked in the changing rooms. New Zealand versus Scotland.
You've lost anyway.
Of course we would have won. We've been in Brazil, Scotland. You guys stood no chance.
Fake ass.
Hello? Hello? Oh. Handle that guys, don't worry, keep training.
Party in the streets and the city's on fire.
Hello everyone and welcome to episode number 99 of the New Zealand Builder Nation here on Shaun Does FM with both the All Whites and with Cashmere Technical. And coming up today, we are back into the AFC Champions League in 2034 and we take on AS Magenta there with a lovely little Bambi on ice. Almost looks like Lucas Kelly healed as part of their logo, and also if we beat them badly enough in the first leg of this quarterfinal, we might show you guys second up today a Southern League clash with Christchurch United. So if you're looking forward to that coming up in today's episode, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying the series here on the channel, also consider hitting that subscribe button and turning that notification bell on as well. It is greatly appreciated. But today we're in all whites mode. We took on Scotland then Ireland and also had the group stage draw for the World Cup coming up in June. So if you missed that one, I'll leave a link to it over in the top right corner. Tricky little group for us coming up at this 2034 World Cup. That's probably not going to be on the channel until next week. Before then, got to make our way through this 2034 OFC Champions League. And off the back of yesterday's episode, just played the one game, which was in the Southern League, and we picked up a 3-0 win over Mosgiel. It was away from home, but pretty comfortable. Early goals there to McGoldrick and Jamie Young, and one late to Kennedy Mahamadou. Do mean we pick up a pretty comfortable 3-0 win, as you can see there. Very dominant stats-wise. So we come to this quarterfinal in some quite good form, and to be fair, this is a quarterfinal that we should be winning. We have done one transfer alongside the two that came through during the course of yesterday's episode with Max Caputo, as well as Theophilus Simopoulos. Just got that name right. We've done one more just to make sure we have some extra depth up front, and the player that we did bring in once we make our way over to the transfer history was Brian Davis. He just joined the club about a week or so ago. American striker. He joins us, 2.5-star current ability, 4-star potential as a third choice option in behind both Juan Carlos Castro and Michael James Gilbert. Just felt like we could use some better quality depth there than someone like Chris Kelly, who has no stars and came for our youth intake last season. So a bit extra depth there in terms of striker. Ideally, we've got someone a little bit better, but he will do as some emergency cover if we do get a couple of injuries. Very much the same case as what we did with those two transfers prior, as I said in yesterday's episode. But AS Magenta are a team that we've taken on quite a bit so far in the save. I think a couple of seasons ago, actually played and beat them in the Champions League final, one of the years where we took on the New Zealand team in the semi-finals instead of the final. And to be fair, that could be the case yet again, because if we win this one today, then it will set up tomorrow a clash, you'd imagine, with Auckland City. Otherwise, we'll take on AS Dragon, who we beat in our group when finishing on top of that at the start of the week. So hopefully this will set up a big clash coming up tomorrow for episode 100. Unfortunately, it won't be a final, but it'll be rather fitting if we took on Auckland City, considering this was supposed to be a save with AFC Auckland and Auckland City have really been our biggest challenges since we have made the move to Cashmere Technical. A couple of injuries though going in to this quarterfinal, just coming back from them, Matthew de Hotman de Villiers and Tariq Nah. But to be fair, they are rotation players. But one of the reasons signing Brian Davis ended up being quite a good idea is Michael James Gilbert has torn his hamstring and is out for 3 to 5 weeks. It does mean that Kelly from our youth intake last season is actually our backup striker for the Champions League, because Davis arrived too late to be registered for that competition. So that is a big blow. Michael James Gilbert out for 3 to 5 weeks. Hopefully no more injuries to a player, especially like Juan Carlos Castro, before Gilbert does come back, and also currently missing Georgios Victoros and Jamie Young with pulled ankle and knee ligaments respectively. 9 days to 3 weeks for Victoros, 5 to 11 days for Jamie Young. So again, that's a backup player for us who is out. We do have Max Caputo in central attacking midfield, but of course another one who came in too late to be registered for the Champions League. So a couple of positions there we're a bit light in terms of our Champions League squad. Victoros not so bad because centre back is quite a deep area, thankfully, but hopefully no more injuries up front or in central attacking midfield. Otherwise, we could be a bit thin going into a semi-final against Auckland City, but we're going to take on AS Magenta. As I said, this is a team I'd like to think we'll be beating pretty comfortably. They've lost their last 2 games 3-0 to both Vaniagu in the group stage of the Champions League and then the opener of the New Caledonian Super League. So imagine we should be winning this one quite comfortably, and if we beat them bad enough, we can show you guys a game against Christchurch United second up in today's episode instead of the second leg of this one over in New Caledonia, especially because we've already done a bus trip to this ground when we had that final a couple of seasons ago, but hopefully can take a big step here towards making our way into a Champions League semi-final against Auckland City by beating AS Magenta at the GMP. And here are the team sheets for the first leg of this Champions League quarter-final. First up it is us, and thankfully we're still at full strength for our starting 11. As I said, a couple of players missing though from the bench, but they are AS Magenta. They are going with a 4-3-3 diamond. Hopefully pick up a good win here and put this one to bed in the home league. And that might be the case. The first highlight here has only taken 2 minutes and is a goal kick there to AS Magenta, and thankfully we win that one there, and Kevamina starts to make his way forward, albeit that's a poor pass there looking for Janssen. I think it was behind him. So AS Magenta yet again not wearing the right shade of colour, but they are on the ball, albeit thankfully pump it deep, and we are back in position now. Janssen plays that one forward to Juan Carlos Castro. The goalkeeper just gets absolutely done there, even though that did not take a deflection. That is a pretty average goalkeeping effort, but thankfully we go 1-0 up very early thanks to Juan Carlos Castro. Need him to stay fit and put the goals away. Of course, with that injury to Michael James Gilbert, that is just some very weird goalkeeping, but thankfully it helps us go 1-0 in front.
Yeah.
An absolute disaster for us here just past the 10-minute mark. One of the positions where I really did not want an injury, and we've got one to Juan Carlos Castro, who's been our goal-scoring maestro the last couple of seasons here at Cashmere Tech. Just checking here our striking options. So ideally, I don't have to bring on Chris Cully, and thankfully Mahamadou can do a decent job out there. So we'll bring on Tariq for Juan Carlos Castro, but that could be a big injury early in this first leg. And off the back of that enforced sub, we have to wait all the way to the half-hour mark for the next highlight in this game. Hopefully won't prove too costly in this quarter-final, as well as potentially the semi-finals against Auckland City. Looking in there for Mahamadou these days, playing up front. Have just noticed that Tariq quite tight off the back of a B team game. Good chance there for Mahamadou up front. The shot gets saved well, then it falls out there to Lorenzo Janssen. Unfortunately, his effort goes into the side netting. Still only 1-0 in front with 10 minutes left in the first half. This could actually mean we have to show you guys the second leg of this quarter-final, which I was not expecting, but now Nian Kuru makes his way forward down that right-hand side, floats that one there for Kevamina, but that is a pretty weak shot, albeit this highlight is going to continue while Apane will pump that one deep, making up that pretty average effort from the first shot, which Castro did put away in this game before he went off injured. To be fair, not too sure if he would have saved it if we went the right way anyway, but the animation was a bit off. But now we start to go forward again here down the right-hand side. Clark switches this one out to the left-hand side, and Xavier Smith makes his way inside the box, and that one makes its way through to pretty much centre of that inner box, and Janssen makes up that shot hitting the side netting before. That one does make its way into the back of net, and that makes it 2-0, and hopefully still going to be able to score some goals here, even without Juan Carlos Castro. Hopefully that injury is not too serious, with Auckland City probably coming up in the semis, but 2-0 with 10 minutes left in the first half of the first leg. And it looks like that might do it for the first half, making our way here into 3 minutes of added time so far. AS Magenta have done absolutely nothing, and we go into the sheds here with a 2-0 lead, 11 shots on target, XG 3.23, so probably should be in front by a little bit more. Hopefully can be a bit more clinical in the second half, albeit losing Castro might be affecting that now. I think we might take him off here at half time for either Chris Cully or Nathan Walker. Nathan Walker is on a full green hat, probably should have brought him on before instead of Tariq Nasing, as he played for the B team the day prior to this game. So a bit of a whoopsie from me there. Hopefully that doesn't prove too costly in wasting a sub. We can kick away in the second half a bit more to put this tie to bed, as we're currently only 2-0 in front. And a very early highlight here in the second half is apparently Niankuru has gashed his lower leg, so we might just take him off here to be safe for Dossau. Thankfully still on the attack from this highlight. I've completely missed what's happened so far. A shot there through a header, not too sure who that was, but I think that came off the woodwork. Thankfully might still be on the attack here through Xavier Smith, but another sub here early in this game. Then Mina with a header, but that one goes just over the bar. So Dossau will come on for Niankuru. To be fair, we probably should be using him in these Champions League games anyway, but now we have the ball again here from a front just outside of the box. Dossau floats this one, far post for Mina, it's saved, but then Lorenzo Janssen, right place, right time, yet again to put that one away. He's on a hat-trick in the Champions League. I'm pretty sure he did that quite a few times last season as well, and we make it 3-0 nice and early in the second half. So thankfully, some other players stepping up here, goal-scoring wise, off of the back of the loss of Juan Carlos Castro. Janssen makes it a brace and puts us 3-0 in front. And only a few minutes off the back of that second Janssen goal to put us up 3-0, another throw for us here inside of the opposition half. That ball looking for Mina, doesn't quite find him. Thankfully, gets a foot on that Smith. A little bit slow to react, but thankfully does win that ball before the AS Magenta player plays it for to Clark. And now Mina starts to make his way forward, puts this one into the mix, looking for Mahamadou playing up front. And again, he hits the woodwork so far, just can't quite hit the target. As a striker, the ball gets played back in there for Kevin Mina, who does not pick up an assist and also can't put that one on target to grab a goal. Still only 3-0 in front, but shortly off the back of that, we do have a corner and Mina will take this one, takes it short to Janssen. Clark back into Mina in a fair bit of space this time, looking for the centre-back in Teodemiro, who will pick up his first goal of the new season, our young Brazilian, and that makes it 4-0, and hopefully that's a big enough buffer to make sure we're playing Christchurch United second up in today's episode instead of the secondly this one, but putting the pressure here on AS Magenta, and it's starting to show. 4-0 up at the hour mark. And we're just about to make our way into the last 20 minutes of this game, and we do have Kevin Mina, who's playing quite well. It is down to a bit of a deep yellow heart. I think we've got this game in the bag. Henrik Fries can come on for him, and off the back of that injury in the first half, and also that early sub in the second of Niankuru, we have to make our final sub now. We'll make sure that Louis Evans might not be going into that Auckland City tie with a suspension. So Marcus Vinicius can come on for him, and shortly off the back of that, we do have a corner here looking for McGoldrick. Far post, that one comes off the woodwork, and someone was pretty close range there to goal, but couldn't quite get a touch on that to put it away. A foul there on McGoldrick does mean we are going to get a free kick. Let's see if we get shown it. Indeed we do. Mahamadou looking for his first goal since going up top, tries to curve that one top left corner, not far off, but unfortunately can't quite hit the target yet again. Still only 4-0 in front with about 15 minutes left, albeit off the back of that. We do have a free kick. Mahamadou at the far post and finally puts one on target in this game, and that should put this tie to bed 5-0 with 15 minutes left. Lots of pressure so far we've been putting on AS Magenta in this game. Starting to get some reward for it now in the second half. Nice header there from Mahamadou just inside of the far post to give us a 5-0 lead. And we're just now into the last 10 minutes of this game, and Mahamadou here will take a corner looking for Teodemiro, far post, who is of course looking for a double now in this game. Plays that one across the face of goal for Xavier Smith. Long range effort. That one clips the crossbar and goes out for a goal kick, which we are about to see. But 5-0, I think we'll take that off the back of losing Juan Carlos Castro. Now this is some weird defensive work. Hawkins comes out with a slide tackle. It falls to Mikel Pelletier, who puts it away. And AS Magenta do grab a goal back. Probably won't mean too much in the overall scheme of things, but a flick on there from a player on a yellow card, I think that's Landrin, and then good slide tackle from Hawkins on Hernandez, but our centre-backs and defenders just nowhere to be helping him. Not good work there from us, and we get caught out there. They make it 5-1, but hopefully that is just a consolation goal. Or off the back of that, we see the highlight from the restart. A 5-goal buffer going into the second leg would be quite nice, albeit probably not going to make too much difference. Should be beating these guys away from home anyway, so I definitely think we're coming back in a couple of days' time for Christchurch United in the second game of today's episode. It's away from home, but these days they are at a fake stadium. Now Clark there with a long-range effort. It's a screamer. We'll praise off the back of that because we've got our 5-goal lead back. and that is a really nice worm bin of that one, just inside of that left hand upright, and we've got our 5-goal lead back. That makes it 6-1 instant reply there, which is very nice indeed off the back of that defensive blunder. Vinicius picks out Clark, given a little bit of space, but that is a really well placed finish. An absolute worm bin of that one that makes its way just inside of that left hand upright. We make our way into injury time, and in the end are going to pick up a 6-1 win, thankfully kicked away nicely in the second half despite the injury to Juan Carlos Castro. So I think that's a big enough margin for us to just do a recap of the second leg. Can't imagine we'll be stuffing this up, even though that will be over in New Caledonia, but a very one-sided game there. A bit unfortunate. We can see our only shot on goal, albeit it was a pretty big chance, and they did put it away. Can see there as we make our way through the post-match interview, the Auckland City are 7-0 up after their first leg, so it's looking pretty much like it's a lock now. We'll be taking those guys on in the semis in tomorrow's episode. Off the back of 2 very convincing wins there for the New Zealand teams in the first legs. We'll just go forward now and see how serious that injury is to Juan Carlos Castro and also to Tresor Niankuru. And Carlos Castro pulled calf muscle. He is out for 2 to 5 weeks. That could affect us. Hopefully might be close to coming back for Auckland City. Niankuru, that injury not too bad thankfully, but that Castro one is a bit of a concern, not so much for what's coming up in today's episode, but for Auckland City in tomorrow's one, you'd imagine. But we'll come back in a couple of days' time and take on Christchurch United in the Southern League. And here are the team sheets for the Southern League clash we're going to show you guys in today's episode. First up, the home team here in Christchurch United, and they are going with a 4-3-3. Started off with a 3-2 loss to Selwyn. They've stuck in an extra game than us in the Southern League and picked up a 2-0 win, I think it was, over Nelson Suburbs. One change to our team from the Champions League game. Davis up front with those injuries with our strikers, so not ideal. And also Henrik Fries has picked up an injury off the back of that game that we played in the Champions League. Not too sure how, considering he didn't feature too much, but hopefully can pick up a win here against Christchurch United and go top of the Southern League. And it hasn't taken long for the first highlight of this game, albeit it is a throw-in here for Christchurch United at home in the All Blue. I will say this is a ground I don't really like, albeit as I say that we win the ball there through Mahamadou back at right wing for this game. But this is a real postage stamp of a ground, this new one that's been built in game, the Christchurch United Stadium. It's really small, not much space down the wings, and we do tend to struggle at this venue sometimes. So hopefully today is not one of those days, as now we start to make our way down that right-hand side through the Phoenix man in the Nkuru. That effort does take a deflection and does go out for a corner, so on the front foot early, but it is a very small ground in terms of width, and to be fair, don't think it's the longest one either, so it's quite a small ground. Good chance there from the corner. Teo DeMiro can't quite get that one past the goalkeeper. Still 0-0, and before I can wrap things up, now up to the 13-minute mark, and it is Christchurch United here who try and make their way out from the back. Nkuru should tie this one up, albeit makes a mess of that, and Gonzalez, big chance here to give Christchurch United the lead, but thankfully Hawkins comes up with a good save. Nkuru, best rating so far of any of our players in this game. Not sure about that off the back of that effort that he just put in. Thankfully, we hit that ball away from the corner. Mugia is now back in the box here for Christchurch United. They played it one back out there to Simpkin, and still 0-0 at the 15-minute mark. In the highlights, they will continue. It's a goal kick in our favour as we try and make our way up from the back, albeit that is a poor pass there from Xavier Smith. So Christchurch United all of a sudden are starting to get on the front foot. Stout starts to cut in field, albeit that's a poor pass from him, and Niankuru makes up for that previous blunder, and we start to get on the attack. Lorenzo Janssen makes his way forward, long range effort, but that one straight into the path of the Christchurch United goalkeeper. Still 0-0, coming up to the 20-minute mark, but can't catch my breath yet. There's a free kick here to United, but thankfully a really poor one. They give that ball straight to Teo DeMiro, who starts to make his way towards the opposition half. Nice ball over the top there too, with Brian Davis up there for Kevin Mina. Starts to cut in field a little bit. Somehow we nearly butcher that chance, but the ball, it does fall to Lorenzo Janssen, who puts it away in the bottom right corner. Great chance for us there on the counter attack off the back of that poor free kick from Christchurch United, and a good switch out there too from Teo DeMiro, who did get us on the front foot. Mina here, thought he should have squared that one for Janssen, but thankfully a tackle on Mahamadou, the ball falls to him anyway, and eventually we take a 1-0 lead. And just we're about to make our way into 1 minute of added time. We do have a one late highlight here in the first half of this game. Things definitely slowed down off back of that first goal, which was scored through Lorenzo Janssen. and yet again he will get himself onto a hat-trick off the back of that. We can praise our guys, otherwise might have given them the you can do better talk at halftime. We'll probably still do that because this has been a pretty average first half, but thankfully the ground, which can prove tricky, as I said, because of the size, at least that's how it feels from what we see through the match engine when we take on Christchurch United. But Nian Kuru, good assist there, and Johnson is well and truly onside and pokes that one home, gets himself onto a hat-trick, and that makes it 2-0, and indeed that will be the scoreline at halftime. Everyone out there is doing pretty well, albeit both our wingbacks are down to some slightly deep yellow hearts, so I think going to make the most here of this situation being turned up at halftime and bring on both Leon Sutton for Xavier Smith. He's under 20, so that gives us the freedom to take off Nian Kuru for Isaac Hughes. So a couple of changes here at halftime, but things going well. 2-0 in front of Christchurch United. And it's been a very boring second half so far. Nothing's happened at all. About to make our way into the last 15 minutes of this game. A couple of players have dropped down to red hearts, but I think Kevin Mina might be the most important of those. So we're going to take him off here for Matthew de Hotman de Villiers. That's all our subs used. Still 2-0 in front. And thankfully we finally get a highlight here in the second half of this game, just making our way into the last 10 minutes of it, which to be fair isn't too bad with a 2-0 lead. Teo Demira gets his head on the end of that one, but unfortunately can't get that one on target like he did in that first leg against AS Magenta. Still only 2-0 in front, despite the fact we've been really dominant stats-wise in this game. Christchurch United, if they pull a goal back, could still keep themselves in this game. De Hotman de Villiers, that one goes back to Clark. It goes forward to Brian Davis, who will score a debut goal in the first team here at Cashmere Technical. Hopefully that's a sign of things to come, especially at the moment with no Gilbert and no Castro. Thankfully, won't impact us in the second leg against Magenta too much with the scoreline advantage that we do have, but hopefully one of those strikers is fit for Auckland City. But good effort there from Davis, albeit probably could be better from Shaun there in goal for Christchurch United, but that finds its way into the back of the net and we take a 3-0 lead and should put this game to bed, albeit we now go down the other end and Christchurch United here to overthrown and make their way into our half. That is a long range effort, to be fair. Probably Hawkins beaten, but thankfully just goes over the crossbar, make our way into 2 minutes of added time, but very much like that AS Magenta game, the stats are quite similar. This time, can't quite score as many goals without one Carlos Castro yet again, but thankfully Davis does get off the mark and Lorenzo Johnson yet again pops up with a double, and we pick up a 3-0 win, which should see us go back on top of the Southern League after only a few games, albeit that is not the case because the Dunedin City Royals have played one more game, so 1 point in front of us off the back of 2 wins and a draw, but in a good spot early with that game in hand. We'll come back shortly. Just make sure we don't bottle things in the second leg against AS Magenta before looking forward to a very probable semi-final against Auckland City in the Champions League. So 2 good wins for us there in the games we showed you on camera in today's episode, and thankfully we continue that in the second leg against AS Magenta. De Hotman de Villiers, Leon Sutton with first half goals, and Chris Cully scores a goal in the Champions League, a youth intake player there in the second half. A 3-0 win, and we go through 9-1 on aggregate. And considering I put out a full rotation to make sure no first teamers picked up yellow cards to get themselves in suspension trouble for these semi-finals, I will take that all day long, because that is going to be a big game coming up in tomorrow's episode for episode 100. The other results from the quarterfinals: Auckland City 10-0 over AS Dragon, doing exactly what we did in the second leg of our tie. And on the other side of the draw, Tawhia, big comeback in the second leg, 5-1 win to go through 6-4 over Waniagu. They look like they're in a lot of trouble off the back of the first leg. They turn it round, and AS Parade 3-2 win in the second leg. They go through by a goal over the Solomon Warriors. That does set up semi-finals, an all New Zealand one between us and Auckland City, and the other side of the draw is Tawhia taking on AS Parade. So hopefully we can get past Auckland City again in tomorrow's episode, and that should take us a long way towards picking up yet another OFC Champions League. But that will do it for today's episode. Quite comfy there over both AS Magenta as well as Christchurch United in the Southern League, albeit that injury to Castro that could impact us for that semi tomorrow, where we do take on Auckland City. If you enjoyed today's episode, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying the series here on the channel, also consider hitting that subscribe button and turning that notification bell on as well until tomorrow for the semi-final of the Champions League, the big one where we take on Auckland City in episode 100. Thank you very much for watching, keep on keeping on, and I'll see you then. Cheers.